Hello everyone, and welcome to another very exciting tutorial in CSS and JavaScript. So today we're going to be stepping over CSS and JavaScript a bit, and I will try to show you how you can create these kind of effects. So as you can see, we have a header bar over here, and there is like a menu trigger. So as you can see, I'm going to scroll down and just focus here, take a look at the effect that is happening over there, right? So it's like with, so as you can see, it's kind of like as if this menu is like detaching from the header in a very nice way, right? And for this, I'm gonna introduce you to SVG, and the specific thing in SVG, which is filters in SVG actually. So for those of you who don't know what SVG is scalable vector graphics. So basically it is not something pixel based, it's basically based on mathematical formulas to generate these kind of shapes, or not only this, but anything, from circles, rectangles, squares, or any kind of shape that is possible to generate using mathematics, like for example curves, Beziers, and all sort of things. So I'm not going to go over on what exactly like the definition is in terms of what it includes, but just know that we are considering SVG for this tutorial. Alright, so let's get started. I'm going to create a header, which is going to be the white header, and then my body on the CSS panel here, I'm going to give it a background color of let's say light blue, right? And then for the header, I'm going to give it a height of maybe 60 pixel, and then background color of white, right? So I'm going to go ahead and remove the margin on my body. Right, so for the menu, I am going to create a new div with a class menu trigger. And then in my CSS, what I'm going to do is just defining the CSS for that menu trigger. Let's give it a width of 40 pixel and a height of 40 pixel. Then I'm going to give it a background of, let's say for now, maybe 333, so I can see where it is. And then give it a border radius of 50% to make it like a circle. And then I will just define the position to be fixed. So it will get fixed wherever I position it. So top 10 pixel, and then maybe right 30 pixel, right? So it ends up over here. I'm going to remove the background color for now, and then I will try to create that trigger look. I am going to create a span inside it, and then I will use pseudo elements to generate this kind of look. So the middle one is the span that I just put, and then I will use pseudo element before and after to create this loop. So to do that, I am going to write menu trigger and then span. And since both the span element and the before and after have the same look and feel, I am going to put them together. So I am going to copy this, and then after, and then again I'm going to do before, right? So let's give it a width of maybe 20 pixel, height of 2 pixel, background color of, let's say, maybe AAA, and then I will give it a position absolute. So you can see it just shows up over here. And the other ones are actually on top of it. So I need to use positioning to change their place. and then I will use top 50% to kind of center it in the middle of my container. Just to have a clue of what we're doing, I'm going to give the menu trigger itself a background of maybe DDD, so you can see where it is. And then, yeah, we're good in this. And now I will go individually on menu trigger span. I will just give it a top of 50%, and then maybe left of 50% as well, and then transform, translate, minus 50% on the x-axis and minus 50% on the y-axis. So you can see that I use these three lines of CSS to kind of center my span in its container, which is the menu trigger. And then I'm gonna go for the menu trigger span before. I will give it a top of minus maybe 6 pixel. Though in order to make it visible, I have to say I don't want any text or content with it. So you can see that it actually goes minus 5 pixel on top, and I'm going to use the same thing for my span after pseudo element. Give the same content, nothing, and then top, instead of minus, I will give 6 pixels. So basically what happens is that since the before and after are the pseudo elements of the span, they follow the positioning of their kind of main element, which is the span that we've put here, and then these numbers are relative to that position. So I will go from the middle minus 6 pixel up and then 6 pixel bottom, right? And just to have a bit of a scrolling, I will give my body a height of maybe 2000 pixel. So you can see that it pretty much, this guy is fixed over here, but the rest is not fixed like the header. Now I will just change the color of my menu trigger back to white. So you can see this is how it looks. Now for the cool part, which is defining that kind of feel and look, right? As if it's detaching in a very nice way. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use SVG filters, right? So I'm going to go to the Google, searching for SVG filter. And yeah, let's use MDN, which is the developer website of Mozilla, the creators of Firefox. And then you can see that we can define SVG by putting the SVG tag. So I am going to add a SVG tag. And then in order to create SVG filters, you have to use defs tag, right? As you can see over here as well. Defs. So then what you want to do inside the defs, we're going to create our filter. Though we need to give it an ID, let's just say goo. And then this is where you can define your filters. So the first filter that we're going to use is a kind of a blur filter. So I am going to search for SVG blur filter, which is the tag for it. So basically, by the way, SVG is very much like based on XML. So it's very much like HTML tags. All right, let's get an example of it. This is like, I'm just gonna copy this and paste it with my filter. Give it a bit of a space over here. So what it says is that there are two important things for this filter. First of all, in attribute gets the source graphic, which basically means that whatever that this filter gets applied to, and then std deviation basically defines the amount of blurriness, right? So just for you to see how it looks, I'm gonna apply it to my header. So I'm going to, and by the way, in order for this to be applied, I will write filter, and then URL, and then within the URL, I just write the name of the ID of my filter with the hashtag, right? Gooey, right? So you can see how it blurred out my header. Though in order for this effect to happen, you always need to give this filter to the parent element of whatever we have, which is in this case our body, right? So I'm going to just copy this and give it to body. I can definitely define a container or whatever and then give this filter URL go to that one, but for now, let's say I'm going to give it to the parent of this, which is the body, right? Nothing actually basically changes for now. Now, so you realized how to create like this filter and how to apply it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to define another filter, which is called color matrix. So I am going to search SVG color matrix, and I'm going to describe what I'm going to do with it. So let's just wait for this page to load. And then I scroll down, you can see there is this example over here. I just copy this like this, and then I will paste it after the first filter, which was FE Gaussian filter. So just a bit of a description. I mean, the type of this filter is matrix, and for those of you who have passed or who have had your math classes, you're pretty much familiar with the concept of a matrix. It's a bunch of rows and columns that define something, and in this case the first row is, so if you guys know the color space that we use for web is RGB, R for red, G for green, and B for blue. And here the first row is for R, the second is for G, the third row is for B, and then also on the columns, and then this one is for the alpha channel. So 4 rows, 4 columns, but then there is an extra column here which is used for multiplication, and I will describe it for you soon. So as you can see, after applying this to the source graphic, which is the input, which is my body and whatever that is within that, you can see that it is using all the values here on my G or green row. So that's not what I want to do. I'm going to use this source color, which is white. And in order to do that, I'm going to do 1 on my R, which is red. And then I will just remove everything and set everything to 0. And then I will go for that column or for that cell that represents my green, which is the first row, the second row, and then the second column. So I'm going to go there, intersection of the second row and second column. I will put 1, right? So this is R, red, first row, first column, everything else 0. Then for the green, I'm going to go for the second row and second column 1, and for the blue is third column and third row, I will put 1. So now you can see that I have my initial RGB values, whatever it was. So it was like white, not white, so the actual color of my header was white, and this is going to be white as well. And then the interesting part though is this part. If I scroll down a bit, right, let me just tell you one more thing. So as you can see in our filter tag, we have defined 2 filters, but what we want to do is first apply our Gaussian blur filter and then the color matrix, right? And you know by now that the attribute in basically says the input to that filter, and in order to make it so that our Gaussian filter is going to be the input to our color matrix filter, we are using the result attribute and make it we called it blur, right? And then instead here, we change it to what? To blur, right? So the first Gaussian filter, the input is our actual whatever it is, that we're applying this filter using this. And then we will just define the result attribute to be called blur, and then we use that as the input of our color matrix, right? So as you can see, this is how it looks. And if now I scroll down, you see there's nothing specific here. What I'm going to do is, because nothing is changing, what I want to do is, as I said, this is the alpha channel. I want to kind of add contrast to it. So let's just give, instead of 1, I'm going to give it 18, which is like 18 multiplied by whatever value I have on the alpha channel of the items I have here. In this case, I have a header, and within that I have a menu trigger. So by default, since I just use the color like this for both of them, the value of the alpha channel is 1. So this means that I multiply that value by 18, and then if let's define -7, this basically means that the value of the alpha channel will be 18 times the default value of alpha channels of these elements minus or plus -6 times 255, because the scale of the color is 0 to 255. Just to give you a better idea, in order to create this using RGB, I am going to write RGBA. So if I just say RGB and then parentheses 255 and then again 255 and then again 255, you can see that it changes to white. And since I haven't used RGBA, so it's RGB, the default value will be 1 for the A, which is the opacity, or let's say transparency of this. But if I add an A here and then put that to be 1, then you can see that I have exactly the same thing as if I write here background color FFF. It's exactly like this. Though with this, I can actually control the transparency of the header. How? So the scale of my transparency is from 0 to 1. So the color channels or the color values, the first one are for red, green, and blue. It's from 0 to 255, but the scale of my opacity or transparency is from 0 to 1. So if I use something like 0.5, it's going to change the opacity transparency to half of the actual full saturated value, right? So with that said, I'm going to change this again to, and if I use 0, for example, here, as I said, it's 0 to 255, it's going to become black. So 0 is black and 255 is white. So I'm going to change it to FFF, which is the actual color, getting back to our filters. So I defined the Gaussian blur, and then here I am using my color matrix to effectively increase the contrast of the alpha channel itself. Not my color channels, the alpha channel. Which kind of now, as you can see, it kind of gets that look, right? But the problem is that I have blurred out everything. What I need to do is add the source graphic on top of whatever I created to get this feel and look, right? To get the actual initial look that I have. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use another filter through SVG, which is called SVG blend filter. So just waiting for this to come. Yeah, it's called FE blend. So as you can see, what I want to do, I want to blend whatever that is result of the FE color matrix with whatever that I initially had, which is source graphic. So I'm going to use FE blend, right? I'm going to use the in attribute to say it's coming, it is source graphic, and then another input which I define into, and then I will give, I will define a result here, result, let's say color matrix, and then I use that as my into, right? So as you can see, right now I have my actual initial look, and if I scroll, you can see that we get that very nice effect over here, right? There you go. So yes, regarding the compatibility, the thing is that it's only Chrome and bunch of other, but not Safari. So Safari doesn't use this. Is not compatible, so you won't see the effect on Safari. Though I haven't recently tried, but if you really want to have this effect anyways, right now I applied this filter to a DOM element, which is our div here. If you really want this filter to work everywhere, you have to define, instead of using DOM element, you actually need to use SVG to create this circle as well, right? So don't forget this. If you really want this to be visible on all the browsers, both on desktop and phone, instead of using a DOM HTML DOM element, you have to use SVG, for example, to create that menu element, right? So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know if you have any questions, any comments. If you like this tutorial, please go ahead and like and share it. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon. Have a good day and night.